Hello, and welcome to another episode of TheF. And if you didn't already guess by the opening shot, the topic of this week's episode is Superman. Now, I'm cutting this into two parts because, frankly, I couldn't ramble on and on and on about the Superman character. I know a lot about the back history, and it's just I could go on for ages, but I vowed to try and keep these videos under 10 minutes. So I'm cutting it into two parts. This part I'll do a brief history of the character and why I love the character and why he beats the pants off any other fucking superhero out there. And the second part I'll talk about the recent reboot, the recent film Man of Steel, and also about the recent announcement that made at San Diego Comic Con by Zack Snyder, the director, about what's next for the Superman. So basically, the brief history is that the character was created by two guys, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, in the 30s. The initial story idea for Superman was a bald madman who had telepathic powers and he was going to use them to conquer the world. But they rethought the concept, made him a good guy, gave him the spandex outfit we all know, red shorts, red boots, and cape, and of course the infamous S on the chest, which incidentally is apparently the second most recognizable symbol on Earth next to the crucifix. So they created that, sold the character to a company called National Allied Publishing, and later it became known as DC after its most successful comic, Detective Comics. And they still publish Superman comics to this day. I have some. I have a few graphic novels, and it's still a character that's carrying on. It eventually moved from comic book to daily newspaper comic strip. It went from there to a radio series that ran for over 1,000 episodes. And then in the late 40s, they made these little movie serials, they call them. They were only about 45, 50 minutes long. And the first Superman on screen was a guy called Kirk Olive. He was a Western actor at the time. And he made a few of them. And then TV started getting pretty popular. And in the early 50s, the TV series of Superman started. And that was played by George Reeves, no relation to the later Superman Christopher Reeve. And that ran for 5 seasons. It was to go on for longer, but sadly, George Reeves committed suicide. He hated being typecast and expressed to cast and friends that he didn't want to, he was getting a little too old to be running around in his underwear. So he got sick of the character and couldn't get any work, and sad end for the man because he was a good Superman. I have the DVDs, he was very good. And it was pretty much dead in the water after that. There was an attempt to do a Superman TV series with puppets. That didn't work. There was a musical in the 60s. That didn't work. And nothing much of any significance really happened until 1978 when the first Superman movie came out. And we had the Superman that we all know and love in Christopher Reeve. Fantastic movie it was, Superman, the movie. Fantastic. Second one even better. They made two more after that. Superman 3 was alright. Superman 4 was just outright crap. Even Christopher Reeve himself said so. He had a hand in writing it, and he said he made it was a terrible mess. He hated it. And then after the bad success of the last two Superman films of that time, it kind of died again. And then in the 80s, they made a TV series called The Adventures of Superboy. Two guys played Superboy, John James Newton and Jared Christopher. Then in 1993, Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman started. We had Dean Cain as Superman for that one. He was a pretty good Superman. I remember that. That was actually my first full-on exposure to regular Superman. Like, I'd seen the movies, but this was a TV series. I watched it every week and I loved it. And Dean Cain did a good job. He was very good. I liked him. Good Superman. And then that again ran its course after about 4 seasons. And then in 2001, another Superman TV series, but it wasn't Superman. It was a TV series called Smallville, and it was a guy, and Clark Kent was played by a guy called Tom Welling. And this would chart Superman's youth from his time on the farm with his mom and dad, and to where he would become Superman. Now, throughout the entire series, until the series finale, there was no mention of Superman. In fact, the only powers he had in the pilot of Smallville were he could run very fast and he was very, very strong. And as the series progressed, we saw him discover his powers: the heat vision, the X-ray vision, the super hearing, the super blowing, and eventually we see him put on the suit. And then the series, that was an excellent TV series, loved it, and it ran for 10 years, and it was a great show, and really renewed my interest in Superman. I'd always loved Superman, but it really kicked into overdrive when Smallville started. It reignited my love for the character. And then in 2006, they made another film. Now, the Superman that time was a guy called Brandon Routh. He was an excellent Superman. He did a great performance. He was a good Superman. He did good as Clark Kent. But the problem with Superman Returns was that it was an homage to the 1978 film. It was too similar, too like. I mean, they had Lex Luthor in it, which is again not a bad idea. Kevin Spacey was good, but the only problem was it was way too similar to the movie. Like in Superman Returns, Lex was obsessed with land again, and it was just. It's a good film, and I enjoy it. I enjoy watching it, but it was just in terms of bringing the character to a new audience and reigniting the love and passion for the character. It didn't do that. It was a good movie, but it failed in that area. And then it looked like it was not necessarily be over forever. I mean, the character's always going to run because the DC still published the comics. But then came Man of Steel recently. Now, again, I'm going to talk about that in the next episode. Now, I'm often asked why I love the character so much, why I'm so obsessed with the character. And I suppose that, I mean, we're all obsessed with something, aren't we? And I suppose the reasoning is that I mean I've loved Superman, the character, for most of my life. Like I can remember watching the movies when I was younger. I can remember going to see Superman 3 and waiting outside the cinema because again at the time I didn't know about the projector flashing the movie onto the screen. I thought Superman was behind the screen acting out the movie. So I remember wanting to wait outside the cinema for him to meet him. And I suppose it's just again like the basic reason would be it's a great character, great stories, great actors have played the part, and the comics are great. The stories are still fantastic, and it's just a character. I think Brandon Routh said it best. He goes, "The spirit of Superman is it's someone we can all aspire to be." I mean, none of us are ever gonna fly or jump over buildings in a single bound or shoot fire from our eyes. But the morality of Superman, the spirit of the character, is something we can all aspire to be. It's like we can all be selfless and do good for others and just try to do good in the world in general and stand up for the people who need a little help. And that's what Superman did. That's what Superman did. Like in the early comic books, he stood up to the evil landlords charging too much rent and stuff like that. And the deeper love, I suppose, for the character I have is the fact that the older we get, the wiser, the more intelligent, and we become, and the more we've got to let go of. Interests we had when we were children, we can't. We don't sustain it because it seems silly and stupid to us now. But the one thing I've always held on to is I've never lost my love for the character, and I never will. Whenever I watch a Superman movie, TV series, or read the comic book, I'm transported right back to when I was a kid, and I feel that sense of wonder, that sense of fucking love for the character, and then it just really cheers me up. Whenever I want to cheer myself up, I either watch a Superman or something funny like Monty Python. But Superman always cheers me up. It reminds me of when I was a kid when there was no responsibilities and everything was great and fantastic. Not that it isn't now, but again, we all loved it when we were children. We'd love to relive those days again, but sadly we can't. So, Superman, I loved when I was a child, I love him now, and I will always, I love the character until I don't anymore, which will never happen. So that's the end of that. I hope you like this video. If you want to leave your comments or anything like that, that would be great. And I'll film part 2 soon, and that will be up next week. So I'll see you next week. Bye.